Just was scrolling through YouTube last night, and I had heard and known about Pat Sajak leaving. I heard about that last year. It was about a year ago that he posted that, but was scrolling through YouTube and saw that farewell message from Vanna White to Pat Sajak, and it was definitely very like raw and authentic and real. Despite them, being on TV and stuff, you could just tell all those years really mattered to her. And then I felt just pulled to get on astrocharts.com, look at her chart, see if there's anything there indicating. Basically, I just want to see what was going on in her chart as it pertains to Pat Sajak leaving, and yeah, there's quite a bit going on. Um, that is that this event in her life, it's like impacting her very, very deeply, and a lot of it's all interconnected but different ways. So I was inspired to get on and make a live. Never done a video or a live talking about a celebrity, so kind of just felt guided to do it and inspired, and thought people might be interested since it's a celebrity. And also I also just wanted to do it to show how basically astrology affects everybody and everyone, and just to give some practical, like, this event connects it to the practical and to the real world, connects astrology to the real world. And I figured, like, the people who are like 80s and 90s kids that have grown up watching Vanna White and Pat Sajak, they might appreciate a video like this too, because it just kind of it marks the end of an era, and it just, that's why I put that in the thumbnail. 40 years, an era of 40 years. I was born in 92, so I'm a 90s kid, but Wheel of Fortune definitely has like a place in my heart, my memories, like my childhood, because just growing up, watch it here and there, but especially like at my great grandma's house, like we'd stay with her. She usually would have it on, like while we were watching, or while we were eating dinner, we would watch it. Also Jeopardy, but so she's kind of the one that really got me into watching game shows. And yeah, so I just thought maybe the people that grew up watching it would appreciate this video too, because it kind of just marks yet another kind of sign of, like, we're officially adults now. It's like there's a lot of hey Chris, welcome. Yeah, it just kind of marks the fact that we're adults, and you can't escape time, the passage of time. It's very Saturnian, very Neptune. Hi, welcome. And it's sort of like, almost feels, I don't know, maybe people might find this silly, but like for the 80s and 90s people, 90s kids, it kind of feels like a like we're grown up now. Can't think of the phrase right now. Yeah, just kind of entering into adulthood. And yeah, things change, life changes. So anyways, let's get into the astrology. So hopefully you have, like a basic understanding of astrology. If you guys have questions, you can always get the questions in the chat, and I can answer those as we go along here. I am having a good day so far, Chris. Hope you are too. Hi, Strad. Welcome. All right, so Vanna's big three, meaning her sun, moon, and ascendants, are: she has the sun in Aquarius at 29 degrees. She's a moon in Libra at 26 degrees. And She has a Cancer ascendant at 17 degrees. I'm in Indiana currently, Triller. Nice, Ireland. I want to visit Ireland. Very much so. I have Irish in my blood, so maybe we're distant cousins. But anyways, so she has a lot of air going on in her chart. So starting off, just kind of, she's got a lot of different transits going on, but they are kind of all interconnected. And I'll just say that the major theme is like this letting go and like death, but you know, like a metaphorical death, not a literal death. And so the biggest thing was yesterday was the new moon in Gemini, 6-6. Um, so, and then also we had Venus conjunct that new moon as well. And this is happening in her 12th house, which is the Pisces house, the Neptune house. So it's reflecting a major ending and beginning in her life. And especially because it's connected with her, the transiting Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces, conjunct her MC and Aries at 3 degrees. And if you don't know what the MC is, it's a point or an angle in a person's chart, and it indicates the highest point in the chart. And it's reputation, career. So to me, it's indicating that essentially with this new moon, she's beginning a whole new cycle in her life as it pertains to her career. And it's just being magnified with that Neptune also conjunct her MC. So it's a major letting go. And I also wanted to differentiate death in astrology. There's different contexts of death. So you have like Saturnian death, you have a Plutonic death, and then there's the Neptunian death. And I'll just quickly kind of differentiate between those. Thanks, Chris. Saturn is kind of like an institutional sanctioned death, so like an execution. That would be Saturnian death. It could also somewhat have to do with just natural aging, but I feel like that more falls into like Neptune's area, just a natural death from aging. And then Pluto, the 8th house, is like a sudden, unexpected death. So it's usually very intense and kind of, yeah, just overall more intense. Neptune, usually you have time to prepare for the death. So, you know, the 12th house, Neptune, Pisces rules hospice care. So you can kind of think of it in that respect, or just even a person that, you know, dies in their home, you know, just passes in their sleep. That's very Neptunian. That's a natural ending of things. So now that I've differentiated between those, you can kind of see how metaphorically we are having this natural ending, but yet a new beginning for her with this new moon in Gemini in her 12th house. And moving on, she has Pluto in Leo natally, 29 degrees, and it's retrograde. So retrogrades are when the planet appears like it's moving backwards in the sky, and it's not actually. It's just the Earth is passing it temporarily until the planet catches up. But in astrology, we view it as a more introverted energy, and so Pluto's already kind of introverted as it is, very deep, emotional, kind of reservoir type energy, very intense, has theme of death and rebirth. And so with Pluto and Leo retrograde, she has had themes throughout her life where her identity and her ego have had to, quote unquote, die so that it could be reborn and she could be a better, more empowered person. Well, transiting Neptune in Pisces is also in conjunct her Pluto. If you don't know what an in conjunction is, it's an extreme energy that needs balancing. The planets and the signs don't have really anything in common. And so again here we're just seeing that it's causing this extreme energy that requires sacrifice to be resolved or balanced. And again, it's reinforcing this Neptunian letting go theme. And just the fact that she actually, in that farewell address, she actually, talking about Pat Sajak quoted, "You made me who I am." And to me, that is her having Pluto and Leo retrograde, and then she's a sun in Aquarius, and Aquarius suns find themselves through individuals, groups, and she's on television, that's very Aquarian. And so the being on Wheel of Fortune helped form her identity, and Pat is kind of the center of that. It's the core, he's the core of the show. And so she's having, Neptune is asking her and triggering this death and rebirth with being in conjunct to her Pluto and Leo. And to me, the sacrifice, that has to be made for this balance to occur is that she has to find who she is now without Pat. And kind of forge this new identity, this new ego from this major transition, shift, change. And then lastly, the last transit, but actually it's part of, I realized as I was preparing to do this live that this transit I wrote down, this last one, is actually part of a bigger configuration that she has going on right now. So she actually has a T-square happening, which is basically where two planets are opposite each other, and then there's another planet coming out that's forming like a T that is squaring both of these other two planets, and it forms a T. And again, it's kind of this extreme energy, a lot of friction, and how it can be resolved is through the planet that is coming out, making that end of the T. That's kind of the release valve. And so the T square is involving the new moon in Gemini, which again is the sun, moon, and Venus, because Venus was conjunct opposite her natal Saturn and Aquarius at 13 degrees, and then it's making that, those are both squaring, transiting Saturn in Pisces, 19 degrees. So there's just, with this overall event of Pat Sajak leaving, it's triggering, again, everything that I've already talked about with that new moon, and then it's opposite for Saturn in Sagittarius, which is career, and I already touched on her MC, Neptune being conjunct her MC. So there's all these different things that are pointing to this affecting her career and her how the world sees her reputation. And the transiting Saturn is asking her to basically go through these lessons, this transition, in order to help her mature and grow even further, because that's Saturn's lessons are always about maturity, tangible life lessons. And if we do the hard work with Saturn, that's what Saturn asks us, and we complete those lessons, it'll pay off with big rewards. So, and lots of personal growth. So that's kind of what that T-square is just indicating. And again, it's just kind of reinforcing a lot of what I've already said, that the universe is really asking her to grow at this time and to grow through lots of metaphorical death. It's not easy, and being a person who has dealt with a lot of metaphysical death and some literal death, I know how difficult these transitions can be. So I do sympathize for her and anybody else who, has to go through these kinds of transitions that, life asks us different times. So, is there anything else I want to cover? Yeah, I just think too with Neptune's a higher octave of Mercury and Saturn, as well as Venus and Sirius and the Moon. So there's a lot of different archetypes all rolled into one with Neptune. But in this context, there's a lot of, like, Neptune can represent generational memories or generational feelings and emotions, which, again, even multi-generational. So I, touched on the 80s and 90s kids that grew up with the show, but, you have older generations too that have watched the show. But the point is that we kind of all have these collective memories and feelings that are shared, versus like the moon is like you and you alone, like your personal feelings. But Neptune is like this shared experience, collective experience of emotions and ideas and thoughts and love. And so we're all kind of, if you grew up watching this and you were a big fan, we're all kind of collectively mourning a little bit over Pat Sajak leaving and just this era ending, so, and again, like, still can't think of that phrase. Universe help me think of that phrase. It's called, coming of age. There we go. Thank you. It's kind of like this coming of age, collective coming of age for the 80s and 90s kids in a lot of ways. I feel like that's just how I'm feeling it. I don't know if anybody else does, but that's just kind of what I'm getting from the collective, and just personally. So yeah, hopefully that made sense, and that's about all I have. And yeah, I hope Pat Sajak has a nice retirement and can live out the rest of his life, peacefully and happily. And hopefully Vanna, can find that identity, that new identity. And, it is gonna change not only like her career, but, anytime anything is impacting like an angle, like MC, it's also impacting really all the angles, but especially the opposite angle, which is the icy, or the home life, personal life. So she was talking about how Pat is also very much like a brother to her, like family. She's obviously good friends with him, and just as a side note, having Venus part of that new moon too, just kind of on a smaller scale, also shows that changing of their friendship, business and friendship, because Venus can also rule business, but and how that's going to impact their relationship. But anyways, yeah, I think that about covers it, and hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it made sense, and if you have any questions, you can always leave comments, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So yeah, if you didn't know, Ryan Seacrest is going to be the new host for Wheel of Fortune, so it'll be interesting to see what the vibe's like with that. So anyways, I wish everybody well, and I will see you in the next video, next live. Take care.